Hey everybody, this video brings us out to Chaddsford, Pennsylvania. And the reason why we are in Chaddsford, Pennsylvania today is to take a look at something pretty interesting on this somewhat nice spring day. The nice warm spring weather we had last week has not returned, but the good news is the cold, chilly winter winds we had yesterday have gone away. The 40-degree weather feels like 40-degree weather. The sun is out, it's hitting me. It feels really, really good right now, and the wind chill is gone. Yesterday felt like the teens. It was crazy how cold the wind was making yesterday, but today it feels pretty good. But the reason why we're out here in Chaddsford, Pennsylvania today is not necessarily just to enjoy the beautiful spring weather. We are here to take a look at something pretty awesome, and we will take a look at that in a second. But the reason why we're here today is to take a look at something pretty awesome that sits right here. These are the remains of the 1838 Bullock Octagonal schoolhouse. Yes, another octagonal schoolhouse. You may remember we just looked at one of these only a couple of weeks ago, not too far away, maybe about a half hour away from here. This one here also sort of remains. The one we took a look at a couple of weeks ago was still intact. It has been preserved. It was kept up. It has been completely fixed up, and it still stands to this day. But this one here, we're just looking at the remains, the stone wall remains of the Bullock, the 1838 Bullock Octagonal schoolhouse. This one unfortunately has not been renovated like the other one, but still, this is pretty awesome looking. Very cool that the remains still stand here. So from what I was reading, this schoolhouse was set up a little bit differently than the schoolhouse we took a look at a couple of weeks ago. The one we looked at a couple of weeks ago had the main wall here with the door. The back wall was where the teacher would be, and each other wall would be an individual grade. So maybe kindergarten, first grade, if there was a kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, and so on and so forth. And the teacher would be right over there doing her lessons and whatnot. And right in the center would be probably a coal burning stove with a chimney going out the top of the roof. This one was a little bit different. I still believe that each wall held a different, there's a very, very loud plane probably heading towards the Philadelphia airport. We're not too far away from Philadelphia right now. So I do believe that each wall still held a grade, but in the center was where the teacher was to keep an eye on all the students and all the different grades. So this one was set up just a little bit differently with the teacher in the center, not on the back wall. But it is really cool that you can walk down in here. You can stand where the teacher would have been. You can pretend like you're the teacher teaching all the different grades. This is cool, but it really makes you think about how small at one point this community was. There was not a lot of kids in this community at one point. It was very, very small farming community, and this is all they needed to teach their children. Pretty crazy to think that this is it. You look at schools nowadays, they're like these huge, giant institutions. The grade schools in my area look like they're giants, like industrial buildings. They are huge. There's just so many kids in these towns now. And you look at this and think to yourself, wow, at one point, this was it. This was all they needed. That is pretty awesome. And it's really cool that the township preserved this. They turned it into a historical site for people to come out and take a look at. So again, built and established in 1838, but only lasted until 1875 when they needed to expand, when I guess the more people were moving into the area and they needed a bigger schoolhouse for the children. And that schoolhouse sits up there on the hill. Unfortunately, we cannot take a look at that schoolhouse because it is private property. The schoolhouse has been turned into a home, which I also mentioned when we took a look at the other schoolhouse. And a lot of these old schoolhouses have been turned into private residential homes, which is so cool to think that that the people living up there live in an 1875 schoolhouse. That is so cool. I would love to live in something like that. So up there, sitting on the hill, is the 1875 schoolhouse, the schoolhouse that came after this one right here. So for a while, this schoolhouse actually just sat abandoned, not being used until 1891, when it was then purchased. And this is where things get even more interesting. So again, schoolhouse, 1838, used for a little while until 1875. So not a schoolhouse for all that long. Honestly, it was only a schoolhouse for a little bit. 1838 to 1875, not that long of a time period. But then in 1891, this land was purchased and it was actually turned into a church. And again, that's where things get even more interesting. And that's why I love the fact that this was preserved, because not only do I like the fact that it was preserved for the history of the schoolhouse and the history of the area, that is awesome. But it's also really cool due to the fact that there is some really interesting African-American, some local African-American history tied into this schoolhouse that then became a church. And again, we're gonna talk about that right now by taking a look at this historical marker right here. So again, the plot thickens and the history gets even more interesting. So I keep calling this the Bullock Octagonal Schoolhouse because that's what it was called. It was the 1838 Bullock Octagonal Schoolhouse, but it is known by a more famous name. If you look this up, you can find information by looking up Bullock Octagonal Schoolhouse, but you can look up more information and probably find information on this a little bit more easier if you look it up by this name, Archies Corner. And there is a reason why it's called Archies Corner, because again, in 1891, it says Lydia Archie, a black preacher, purchased the property in 1891, and the building, again, another very loud plane flying to the Philadelphia airport up there. Anyway, so Lydia Archie, a black preacher, purchased the property in 1891, and the building was used as a church with an adjacent ground used as a cemetery. Mother or sister Archie lived in a frame house next door, its foundation still evident. The congregation met in the octagonal building for about 40 years, disbanding sometime after Lydia's death in 1932. So there she is, Reverend Lydia Archie, the oldest ordained female preacher in the African Union MP Church. She was, I believe, the first female ordained minister, thus the oldest, the first ever female ordained minister for the African Union MP Church. That is cool. So definitely some local African-American history right here, used as an African-American church. It says the cemetery was probably active only during the life of the church. A plot plan indicates that the cemetery had stone walls on 3 sides and that there were 79 grave sites. Few of the markers are visible today. I do believe from what I was reading that that Lydia actually is buried on property. She's buried down there in the cemetery. Whether or not we'll be able to find her grave, I'm not sure, but from what I was reading, that is the case. So we are going to take a look at that. Again, many of the markers for the graves are no longer there. They've been lost to time for whatever reason. The property became known locally as Archies Corner, the title of a 1953 drawing by Andrew Wyeth. Over the years, he has frequently painted the site and its buildings and members of the Black community who were his friends. So there you go. It does say that the property was sold to the county for back taxes in 1944 and went to sheriff's sale. 10 years later, the owner dedicated the property to Brigham Township, now Chadsford Township, which maintains the cemetery and the octagonal ruins. So very cool. Archie's Corner. You guys can see what the schoolhouse used to look like. Unfortunately, again, now just ruins, it's not been renovated, has not been maintained, but there you go. You can see, I believe right there would have been the front door. They kind of have it, I like how they have this set up. Look at that. They have this set up in such a way that the sort of historical marker here, the plaque, faces almost the exact direction of the schoolhouse and church. So you can see that the door right there was right there. And there's like a little pergola kind of area and the bell tower. So that all sat right there. And you can see there's a chimney back here. So I guess back in that corner was where the furnace would have been. Like I said, set up differently than the schoolhouse that we looked at a little bit ago, a couple of weeks ago, where the chimney was right kind of in the center, with the furnace being in the center, which sort of makes more sense. You think it would, like, I feel bad for the children. Think of a cold Pennsylvania winter day. You're sitting over here and the furnace is over there. I feel like with it being in the center, it radiates heat all around, right? Or maybe it was just a really good like coal burning stove, and it heated up the entire building quite nicely. I have no idea, but I kind of feel bad for anybody who did not sit anywhere near there on a cold winter's day. That is cool. So it does say that that Lydia's home's foundation is still evident. So we're gonna look for that, which I think might actually be maybe right there. I'm not entirely sure. And then we are gonna walk down to the graveyard, because I wanna see if we can actually find, I wanna see what graves we can find, period. But I also wanna see if we can find the grave of Lydia Archie. That would be really cool. I'm not sure if it's there. I haven't walked down there yet. I haven't looked down there yet. Do not know what we're gonna find, but Archies Corner, AKA the Bullock Octagonal Schoolhouse. Pretty awesome. So I am not 100% sure about the foundation of Lydia's home, but you can see right here, there is definitely some sort of square foundation. There was something here at one point. So I'm going to assume this would be the foundation of her home. They did say that the foundation was still evident, and it looks like this might be it. Right here could be the possible entrance. This would have been the front doorway. I'm guessing not a very big house, small, tiny, maybe one room home. But I would guess right here. Again, I'm assuming this. This is just my assumption. Do not hold me to this. I could be wrong. If you're a local historian, you can correct me down below in the comments. But I'm guessing this is the remains of her home right here. That is pretty awesome. We're gonna walk through the school again. Really cool that you can come into these. I like the fact that you can actually walk into the school like this, because you can, again, get a feel of just how tiny this is. When you stand here and you look at, like, you look around and you realize it's just a tiny little room. Like most people's bedrooms, like most master bedrooms in houses now, are bigger than this. Such a tiny little one-room schoolhouse. All the different children in here from different grades, learning all sorts of different things, reading, writing, arithmetic, but all at different levels. One teacher teaching everybody. Again, I have read that with these schoolhouses, that the older children would help with the younger children. So, the younger kids learning their 1 plus 2s, and the older children helping the teacher teach those kids, because they already knew that stuff, and they would help out. They would help teach. So the older kids would help teach the younger kids, which is really cool to think about. The kids doing. So again, I believe the ruins of Lydia's house is over there. There's the schoolhouse there, and down there is the cemetery. Just want to see what's up here on top of the hill. Looks like maybe there's something up here as well. You can see whatever. I don't know if this is just stone peeking out, but then you can see there's definitely, looks like maybe there's something here. I don't know if this is just stone. This is a very heavily stony area, but I don't know, because you can see it looks like maybe something at some point sat up here on top of the hill as well. So that is cool. I believe that was a red-tailed hawk. And the whole time, by the way, I've been filming, I've been hearing off in the distance, there is a woodpecker. The woodpeckers are out quite fierce at the moment. So you can hear it. There's a lot of woodpeckers out at the moment. Right around my house, we've been seeing a ton of woodpeckers. Anyway, so hawks flying by, woodpeckers in the distance. Love the sound of nature. But again, it looks like maybe at one point something sat up here as well. So whether or not this was the foundation, I don't know. I'm gonna go with that being the foundation, because you can see that's definitely 100% definitely, like, absolutely a foundation for something. So I'm guessing that was her house. And down here on this hill is this cemetery. One supposedly surrounded by stone walls. So I'm guessing at one point there would have been a stone wall maybe coming down there and then also coming up here and probably continuing maybe this way. You can see there's some stone here in the ground. And then I'm guessing the front would have been open without a wall. So 79, I believe it said, 79 graves out here. But there's only maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know, a dozen or so markers actually left. But there are 79 graves here that were part of the church. But the one I'm looking for is Lydia's grave. Again, whether or not we're going to be able to find that grave, I don't know. Don't know if it's actually marked or legible. I have no idea, but supposedly, from what I read online, she is buried out here. Not the grave of Lydia, but this is Rebecca, wife of William Hind, born January 1st, 1855, died March 19th, 1910. So that one there, we can still read. There's one here that's been knocked over. I'm not sure what that says. I don't think that's Lydia's grave. This one here says W.L. Callahan Jr., 1915 to 1916. So that would have been a child buried there with like the fleur-de-lis on the metal marker there. So again, many of these you can no longer read, unfortunately. This one here says, what does that say? Siorchi H. Henry. Oh, how do you pronounce that name? I apologize. I don't know. 1868 to 1910. These here completely, I mean, you can see there's something sort of there, but you cannot read those at all anymore, unfortunately. L.E. Jackson, 1863, 1901, at rest. So unfortunately, if Lydia is buried out here, which again, I read online that she was, I guess her grave has been lost to time. There's no actual marker showing her grave, or at least not that's legible, because one of these could have been her grave. You can see somebody has put, that's a very loud truck. You can see somebody's put a little pebble, a little stone on this one. So whether or not that was her grave there, I don't know. Interesting to see how these were made though. You can see it's just concrete. These are concrete headstones with a piece of metal rebarb in the middle for structure. Pretty cool. So unfortunately, like I said, a lot of these graves have been lost to time. We don't know necessarily, we can't actually see everybody who's buried out here. With that being said, I guess there are records. So perhaps the records show everybody who's buried out here, but just coming out here, unfortunately, like I said, a lot of the headstones have been lost to time for whatever reason. There are a number of graves out here. Pretty interesting. Like I said, it's for the historical aspect of the African American, the local, like late to early 1900s African American community. It's very cool this was preserved. It's really cool this is out here. But again, unfortunately, I do not know where Lydia's grave is, and if it is out here, which supposedly, again, from what I read it is, I can't find it. All right, so I did a little research online, did a quick Google search, and I think I actually have found the grave of the Reverend, and that is right here. And if you do look very closely, it's been pretty well weathered away, but you can see it does say Reverend L.A. Archie, Reverend Lydia A. Archie. That is pretty awesome. That is her grave right there. It's kind of falling over. You can barely make out what it says. I guess I could say, luckily, it's sort of leaning over because it's kind of helped the writing not get as worn away, as weathered away as some of the other concrete graves in the cemetery, but that is it right there. I almost completely missed this. I did not see the writing on it. That is awesome right there. Reverend Lydia Archie, buried right here in her own cemetery. That is cool. So happy I did a quick little Google search, and that was the photo that popped up. A kind of rounded, small rounded concrete headstone. I thought, okay, where is that? It's got to be here somewhere. I did not really see anything else that kind of looked like that, except for this one. And sure enough, that is it right there. Again, the grave of Reverend Lydia Archie, the first ever ordained African-American, again, first ordained African-American female minister for the church. That is cool. Buried right here. So happy we found this grave. So again, this area is just so interesting. The history of this schoolhouse that then became a church. Such an interesting piece of history. Again, a very interesting piece of local African American history. So really awesome that it's been preserved. Really cool. The cemetery is still here, preserved as well as it can be, I suppose. Who knows what has happened to all the other headstones that would have been out here. 79 graves, but only a dozen of headstones. Who knows what happened to them? Who knows where they are? But at least it's been preserved, and at least we can still find the grave of the Reverend right there. Reverend Archie, Reverend Lydia Archie, right there. Pretty cool. This is great. If you guys love old cemeteries, I'm gonna say this is definitely one to visit. Not the most ornate, not the biggest, not the craziest. We've been to some, we were just out the other day, a pretty big, crazy, ornate, old 1700s cemetery with a lot of very famous local historical people buried inside the cemetery. This one here, much smaller, tinier cemetery, but again, from a historical standpoint, an African-American historical standpoint, definitely a very, very important cemetery, one to definitely stop out and visit. I can see what this one says. It says, is that Lou Jane? I've never heard that name before. Lou Jane, Loujane. I might be pronouncing that incorrectly. It sounds French. I don't know. Daughter of Caleb J. and Elmira, is that Lourn? Died August 27th, 1894, aged 28 years. Cannot read really what that says underneath it, but very, very awesome. So really cool cemetery and really awesome history out here. Not only can you visit an old schoolhouse, an early 1800s schoolhouse, but then you can visit what was an African-American church out here in the area as well. And the graveyard that was part of the church with the original Reverend, the woman who bought this schoolhouse and turned it into a church, the first ordained female minister for this church. That is cool. Buried right there. This is awesome. So definitely a place to come out and check out. Really interesting. And the cemetery down there. Schoolhouse right there. And then I do believe possibly the foundation of Lydia's house right here. And other than the many loud vehicles driving by, and the planes, the very loud planes flying to the airport overhead, it's quite nice out here. The sound of nature, the woodpeckers, the hawks. It's a very beautiful little area. That sits right here on this hill. You can hear there's like a bubbling creek down there as well. I can hear kind of rumbling in the distance. Such a beautiful area. Definitely somewhere I'd recommend coming out to check out. If you're ever heading towards maybe the Brandywine battlefields, which are just right over there, or you're heading towards Longwood Gardens, which again are just right over there. Lots of historical things here in Chadds Pennsylvania. But I feel like this one probably gets somewhat overlooked. So if you're ever heading out to those other locations, this is a little like 2 minute, literally 2 minute detour. I recommend coming out and checking this out. All right, so that's gonna do it for the 1838 Bullock Octagonal Schoolhouse, AKA Archies Corner. A really interesting, unique piece of local history, a piece of Chadds history. Again, if you do live in the area, or if you come out here to visit any of the other historical sites or the many different museums, it's about a 2 minute detour from all those other historical areas, all those other museums. Just take a slight detour and come out to check out this amazing piece of local history, this really interesting piece of schoolhouse history, and really interesting piece of African American history that sits out here. This is awesome. But all right, guys, again, I'm loving the sound of nature. All right, guys, so with that, we are done. So as always, thank you all so much for checking out this video. Be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check down below for links to Patreon. If you guys do become a patron, I will send you a postcard every single month from the road. Also check down below for a link to Spreadshirt, where you can grab yourself retro Rest Stop t-shirts. Proceeds both from Spreadshirt and from Patreon do help support the show, and they do keep the show going. So I really do appreciate the help, appreciate the support. It brings us out to places like this. So I really do appreciate that. And if you guys watch this video all the way until the very end, I don't know, what should today's hashtag be? Let's just do hashtag Lydia Archie. Let's pay respect to the woman who turned this schoolhouse into a church. Lydia Archie. Hashtag that down below if you guys watch this video all the way until the very end. Again, buried right over there. But all right, guys, again, that's going to do it. So like I said, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And if you do hit that subscribe button, or you are subscribed, then I will see, or you are subscribed, then I will see you. I'm getting choked up. Or if you are subscribed, then I will see you guys in the next video. All right, again, one more look at the schoolhouse / church right here, Chadds Pennsylvania. Really cool, interesting piece of history that probably gets overshadowed by all the other amazing history that's in this area. I do recommend stopping out here to take a look at this. All right, guys, that's gonna do it. Like I said, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next video. Bye. So in case you're wondering, we were only maybe like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes away from the border of Delaware, which means, yeah, I had to get myself some grotto pizza. I was 15 minutes away. That's literally a phone call and a drive here with my pizza being ready as soon as I got here. So there was no way I was gonna be this close to grotto pizza. Oh, not get myself some grotto pizza. I am salivating right now. Have not eaten yet today. This pizza looks so good. Look at that. With the swirl of sauce. Again, things I'm gonna miss once I move to Florida. If you know of anywhere that does pizza like this in the Orlando area, I'm salivating so much. Let me know. All right, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Seriously, this pizza is awesome. Bye.